Hello and welcome to Flashback, a weekly look at stories from years gone by. Some trouble arrived in Smithers back in 1997, though it wasn't the kind that you would normally think of. The trouble in question was a small black bear cub that had been wandering through a logging camp in Bella Coola by herself. Let's take a look back at the young cub's story as we look back into our archives to July 22nd, 1997.
Trouble arrived at the Smithers airport as a nervous little 8-month-old cub. She'd been wandering through a logging camp in Bella Coola by herself for several days. If she had not been rescued, she probably wouldn't have survived the winter.
Black bears go up when they're worried.
Now, 8 months after being brought to the shelter, 16-month-old Trouble is healthy and ready to get back to the wild. But it wasn't easy to find a place to release her. The conservation office for Bella Coola didn't want a cub that had been in captivity, and zoos didn't want her either.
So what they've done then, rather than putting the bear down, they cleared it with Victoria to release the bear as close to the borders where it came from as possible. So if there's migration in that area anyway, then it will have the least impact if there is a difference in genes or whatever, you know, what they're worrying about, illnesses and so on and so forth.
Langan, who along with husband Peter owned the shelter, says all their other bears were released many weeks ago, but the problem finding a spot for Trouble delayed her release until it was almost too late.
We usually release them as soon as the snow is gone and the habitat is okay. So they have all summer to get themselves used and familiarized with the territory, to eat up enough of it's all new food for them. They have to forage for themselves. It's not getting put in front of them anymore like it has been for the last year. So it's going to take some adjustment. They're going to lose some weight and then they have to regain it before the winter comes. So if you release her much later, she's going to lose weight before the winter and she won't be able to put it back on again to have sufficient weight to make it through the winter.
Smithers Conservation Officer Kelly Dahl administered the anesthetic to Trouble on Saturday afternoon.
She can see what's going on, she can hear you, she's immobilized.
An ear tag will let anyone know a bit about Trouble should she become a nuisance or be shot later. But unfortunately, the Langans won't know what happens to her if she lives out a normal bear life because Trouble doesn't have a radio collar.
We would love to do that. That would be so interesting, you know, to find out how long do they survive, how well do they do, how do they den, and all these kinds of things, but there's no funding for that. No.
Highland Helicopters donated half the cost to fly Trouble to the headwaters of the Kitlope, where she was released. The Langans are looking for help to raise the rest of the cost of the flight, nearly $1,000. You can help by manning a burger booth at the Fall Fairgrounds this weekend, where they hope to raise some money for the chopper ride and for food and shelter for the other animals they take care of. Call 847-5101 if you can help. Bill Proulx, First News, Smithers.